it's what you provide. Like you're the lid for someone's pot. And so people are waiting for you. So it doesn't matter what community you're in, it's what energy you're bringing and who is waiting for your unique gifts to be able to match up.
All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic. Not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jacobowitz, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go. Here we go. Yeah. Dr. Marisa from Homestead Chiropractic in God's country, frickin' A, the QC in Iowa, which I guess I can't say that because two of them in the Quad Cities are on this side of the state, Illinois, which you crossed the river, drove here. Sure. You are so committed. Everybody listening, you're going to hear this woman's incredible, courageous, highly experienced and impactful commitment, and you're so committed to this mission we are on together. You drove to PXHQ here today to jam with us in person, which is special because these are, Zoom's cool, not that cool. This is cooler. And so when I was preparing and going through, I was sharing this with you ahead of time. I always feel like, because we're a close-knit community with PX, but goodness gracious, we've all had our stories in life and in chiropractic. And so when you think you know the variables, and then we do the preparation for a podcast interview, you find more variables. Yeah. So I would love to actually pull a thread on the name of your practice, Homestead Chiropractic, because you are not originally from the Midwest. Right. You are from about as different as it can get in the Midwest. I like to think I'm a Raging Bull hard charger. Then I go to Jersey and I go to the East Coast and I realize I'm a full-fledged pansy, Buddhist monk pansy, basically. Yeah. So can you tell us that? Can you tell us your navigational story from there to school in the Midwest, back to there? I know frickin' COVID, if you want to bring it up, or if you want to skip over it, you can. And then why choose? Take us down there. So give us the story, and then I really want to know where the name Homestead came for you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I grew up in South Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. And so, yes, Jersey is nice in the sense that you have New York 2 hours away. You have Washington, D.C. 2.5 hours away. Philly is 20 minutes over the bridge from where I was. Most people will think of New Jersey and they will lump it into big cities.
And they also don't know that Philadelphia is that close, by the way.
True.
You just said that because you're so familiar. Midwesterners assume every city is at least 5 hours apart. And you guys are like, no, we have about 8 of them.
Very close in proximity. So I loved being on the East Coast. It was a great place. I went to college there. I was really located there. We lived in Connecticut for a bit. But when it came to my chiropractic journey and then finally deciding to go to chiropractic school, obviously there's places in Daytona Beach, Florida, or the Catskill Mountains. You could go to Texas, St. Louis. At the time, there was Palmer in San Jose, California. There were all these cool places that I would typically, I would buy a plane ticket or buy gas to go drive to. But when I saw that there was Palmer Davenport, I was like, well, I don't know that I would ever buy a ticket to visit Des Moines. Yeah. So obviously this is where I need to go live for 4.5, 5 years. So that's kind of what led me to choosing that. And I had talked to a couple mentors that had poured into me, and one went to the mothership. And I thought, how cool to be able to combine those two things. A new experience, get out of my comfort zone, and then go to the birthplace of chiropractic.
Just a second, if I can, that actually, because I love pattern recognition, it's my favorite thing within chiropractic, within life, like getting the blessing of getting to know you and having you be such a pivotal game changer person within our mission. Because where you, not only, first off, who you are and how all in you are. Mm-hmm. Second, your location there allows you to mentor and really be the leader for our PX students. But I guess what I'm saying is that actually fits your energy because you're such a great student and learner. You love your mentors. They're all over in here in your preparation as to how much they meant for you. But you're also, I think, brilliant and smart enough to know that you need to forge your own path. Yeah. You need to create your own experiences and make things truly authentic to you. A lot of people use the word authentic because Everybody else is for the opposite reasons. They're like,
Catchword.
yeah, should I say it? You're like, well, yeah. So anyways, that actually fits that you chose that unique experience because that way you could get what your mentor had worked for them, but you could also change your experience and get something new out of it. That's rad.
100%. But not for nothing. Like my mentor told me a little bit of, I grew up a chiropractic skeptic. I didn't like chiropractic. Thought it was hoodoo voodoo. I was like, what is this? And then I went on my own journey from athletic injuries. And I went initially to chiro school to try and be the best CrossFit coach and then doctor that I could be to make my athletes better. It wasn't until I actually got immersed in Palmer and then further down the line with older students actually starting to golden nugget katana my brain and share about the nervous system itself. Because even my mentors, even Palmer, I think I got the safety pin cycle, but I really didn't. There wasn't an emphasis
pretty superficial.
Pay attention to CNS and PNS class more than just for boards.
If I'd have known how valuable that 4-color pen truly was with the sensory motor tracks and spinal cerebellar tracks, I use that stuff all the time in practice now. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you remember, I actually love to ask this question within this family practice podcast, the spark and catalyst moment, content, person, class. Do you remember?
Absolutely. It was one of my interns and they had just gone to a tonal technique seminar. And so they're like, hey, I have this new technique. I'd love to be able to try it with you. I really loved it. I loved the philosophy and science behind it. And I was like, sure, because at the time I was still dealing with chronic low back SI stuff. I was sick all the time. I just thought that was normal because you're in a new place around other people. And I was like, my immune system is working great. Like it's responding to all of these germs.
We can talk
Meanwhile, that's actually, it wasn't the appropriate health response. And so he did. He tried it. And I was like, oh, this is what high quality of life.
So you not only got the conversation, so chiro intern to chiro student. So you guys are having very chiro to chiro conversation, nervous system. That was probably fascinating, exciting, intriguing. And then you experienced legitimate benefits to an entirely. Now, when we say, we're going to actually talk about bridging the gap later on about practice models, but we can use that metaphor here. You going into CrossFit chiro world sports, that was me too. I was a baseball injury, ART, like I'm old enough, it was pre-CrossFit. So, but anyways, that whole stuff, that couldn't be a different technique.
So different. DNS.
You were getting hammered on, were you?
Fascia, like all of these
Were you in that PT room all the time? Hook me up to that machine.
Yes, I wanted all the tools in all the toolbox. Let's do rock tape. Let's do Graston. Let's do all the things.
And your nervous system was pissed about it, wasn't it?
It wasn't it. So when the neurotonal stuff came into play, I was like, this is it. And so then I got plugged into more and more mentors and people that actually were practicing in this way. And I enjoyed my first couple years at Palmer and getting to know my classmates and going to the local bars and stuff. But then it very quickly switched because no one's going to help you when you graduate. No, Palmer is not going to do anything to make you successful. So is this towards the end of your journey? So this was middle. Yeah, I was like maybe fifth, sixth try. So I start shadowing all these places and I'm like, what do you mean chiropractic can help with infertility? What do you mean chiropractic can help with autism? What do you mean? And so my mind was just blown. And that was really the pivotal point. But the narrow-mindedness for me was that I was still just in the Midwest for a purpose. And I needed to take this back to my home community.
Understood.
So when I graduated, even though I had a partner by my side that I really grew to love and care about, it was like, listen, it's either Jersey or the highway. There's no way I'm staying in the Quad Cities. Okay. It's too saturated. I'm not going to be able to make a difference. Why be there when I have people at home that are relying on me and waiting for me to be present? I need to serve. Let me go do that. And so that's what I did. I went back to Jersey and opened up my first practice. COVID.
And you were all in. Just pause there for a second. Yeah. You had great mentor. You're wired the way you are. You don't do anything half ASS. So you're wired the way you are. So you're clinical. You went and did those seminars. You're learning neurologically focused tonal chiropractic. So you're going to take the clinical care to the nervous system. I know you learned business systems and how to start up. Like you were prepared to go full send, and you did. And okay.
It was a journey. I mean, initially I thought I would associate with maybe one of those mentors, but then as I transitioned, I was like, this is so different. This is so cool. And being a prior chiro skeptic, it was like, it bridged the gap for me in communication of why chiropractic was important. And out east, it really was why should I see a chiro compared to seeing a massage therapist or a PT? I mean, we can talk about this later, but as I moved back to the Midwest, it was more so, why should I see you compared to a different chiro? So just a different communication model. But it really allowed me to grow in that. And I was so excited to open, and my ribbon cutting was 2 weeks later. And COVID hits and shuts it down. And I think for a lot of us, that was a very turn inward time. And I discovered that living in New Jersey, being without my person, was not actually living the most authentically me.
You had to find out.
You just, sometimes you have to go deep to go forward.
I'm a broken record with a statement for my team, myself, my kids, my family. The only way to know is to go.
Exactly. Because I think about that all the time. If I had maybe stayed and done things in the QC from the get-go, it would have always been on the back of my brain. I should have been with family. I should be back home. There's people there that need me. Sometimes you have to go and do.
You might not have gone at 120% like you go now. You probably wouldn't have.
No. Well, and I think the thing I also needed to learn was that when I got back to Jersey, there's a chiro also on every corner there.
Yeah.
It's not
it just hadn't
how
been
many.
In your,
It's what you provide. You're the lid for someone's pot. And so people are waiting for you. So it doesn't matter what community you're in. It's what energy you're bringing and who is waiting for your unique gifts to be able to match up. And so when I was reflecting a lot and thinking about, okay, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I think I'm going to take an opportunity whenever it comes to sell my practice and move back to the Midwest. That's when Homestead came up. Because it was let's go home. Let's go to the heart's home. And that was it.
Being an Iowa boy. Now I can't move on. We're joking about moving on. I'm just such a sucker too for the Midwest. You go through your iterations and phases of life, and I really do enjoy travel, and but I've also done so much of it that I'm never going to be done with it. It's cool, but I'm not as gotta do it. You find out what you really love, and goodness gracious, there's just something about us Midwesterners, we love it here. And actually, a lot of people move here and love it here too. So when you say that, I get that. I really, really get that. And I just think and I do know the patients, the general vibe that's going to be of the families that are going to come to see you. That is of high value to them. Yeah. The fact, and in a family practice, there's a third attribute here now as to why this is so important. And in a family practice, that is absolutely what moms want. Mm-hmm. They want to feel like they belong, not just to this doctor-patient relationship. I don't even mean to say just to minimize that. That's essential to have a very close relationship. But you have built a community. We will definitely be going here later. How you and your team, you become an incredible leader. I just built a community around it. But I want to let's stay in the chiro space because we're kind of coming off of school. We're starting up. And so in the early stages, we as chiropractors need to make the choices and decisions that are going to light our chiropractic fire up, right? So what do you love most about being a nervous system focused pediatric, perinatal, and family chiropractor? If you think about the day-to-day and the week-to-week, I see it on here. I think we're very synonymous here. What do you love and why do you love it?
I think the biggest thing is showing people there is so much more to experience in life, and there's so much more width to their day and their abilities than just going through the motions day in and day out. And it's so much more than back pain, and it's so much more than neck pain. I love those conversations, and I love the mind blowedness I have and being able to see that oh my gosh moment in someone else, and hearing that story come back. So that's probably the biggest thing that's a driving and motivating force for me, is the sense that knowing that the way that I communicate and the way that I'm connected in with that person, and that they're all in and listening to, when you match up that frequency and that energetic vibe, that's the cool stuff.
Healing already starts.
Yeah.
Healing actually already starts. Healing starts upon healing can come, especially nervous system healing, because the nervous system is tapped into every energy of everything. And so conversations and connections and relationships have energy to them. Brands have energy. I actually want to take what you just said and swim upstream in a second. So you actually can begin the nervous system healing experience just by letting them know there is so much more to experience.
Yes.
There is so much more potential to their child's life and their life. And that is literally what you just described is a perfect description of why we named our company the Pediatric Experience. Because the throughput of PX is to alter and change in the best of ways their experience in life. And you have to change their expectations first.
Yes.
You have to change their mindset and their perspective first. And then you can change their nervous system. You do. Each is effective. You put the two together. So okay. All right. So your brand actually does what you have now done. You love communication so much. You're skilled at communication so much. You're intentional about it in this way of getting them to open their potential. Your brand actually now does it for you. Actually, that's the wrong way to say it. Your brand does it for them, which is great for you.
Yes.
Do you feel like your patients are coming in already with a different set of expectations than they do to other chiropractors?
A lot. Yes and no.
Yeah.
A lot of them do because we are so focused on bridging that gap. I think the challenge that we have being what we are and that we are a new approach in the area because Palmer has been there for so long.
Let's pull on that. What about the ones that do? How good does that feel for you and your team? I know your team's really invested in your brand.
No, it's incredible. So even with the ones that don't, it's just like it's the opportunity to share and show. And once they're in the office, forget it. Like they already started to see it online. Even yesterday, the team and I ended up going for a quick lunch in between shift, and we were at a restaurant down the way. And I didn't even use my business card. Like it was just my personal credit card. And our waitress comes back and she's like, "Are you like a neurological, pediatric, like prenatal chiro?" And I was like, "Yes, I am."
Yes.
And she said, "Oh my gosh, they were just showing me the videos in the back. The one social media lady and the cook, they love what you do and they see it. I need to bring my kiddo to you." And then my office manager, my chief heart officer is there and she's like, "We're right down the road." And she just starts doing her
whips
thing.
out a VIP.
They're like, "This is so cool." And I'm like, well, I don't know how you just recognize it by my name. It didn't even say Homestead Chiropractic on it. But to me, what a humbling and beautiful representation of our brand pre-speaking for us. And the fact that she said, "Are you a neuro prenatal and peds chiro?" Not just like, "Are you a local, you own a business down there?"
Yeah.
No, it was specific.
Okay. That's earned. You earned that. That's important. That's essential. That is potential for everybody listening to be able to do that with their practice. So we're going here because that actually fits right in the frame of you. I love this. And you mentioned it earlier. I can tell it's such a really, really cool experience for you. When you were in New Jersey, why would I go to a chiro instead of, soft tissue, physical stuff? And now that you're in a saturated, let's call a spade, it is, it's saturated by DCs, but all of those DCs can have different specialties and the majority of them do not have nervous system focused pediatric. So how enjoyable, how impactful, I kind of don't know how to ask the question, like, how important is that to you to stand out? Because I think everybody would automatically dismiss your success and say, you can't have it in the Quad Cities. And you're like, oh, yes, we can. But the differentiation is even more essential for you. So, and that's a scenario of it, literally yesterday.
Yes. I think it's vital, honestly. One of the reasons why I initially didn't want to set up in the QC was because I knew some people that were there and set up. And they had very similar models at the time and were quote unquote neuro-focused. But even for me being in Jersey, I was spine conversation that leads me to talk about the nervous system. Now I'm nervous system focused. And if I need to, I can tie in to help them bridge the gap why the spine is a house for it, right? But it's a very different approach. Now being, again, with that communication and for example, this particular chiro is still there. They no longer practice even in that neurospinal model. They do more soft tissues and other modalities and laser stuff and et cetera, because that's where they felt they needed to go for more. If that's in their authentic vision, so be 100%. It. But we consistently get people that are like, I just want the focus on the nervous system. I just want the chiropractic. And every time something new gets added, it just feels like, well, what are we actually doing? Or what actually works? Yeah. What is actually potent and important for me? Because last time you told me this was.
Man, oh man. Okay, this was like our care plan chat before we started recording, where it's like, okay, I'm going to stay calm, Marisa. Okay, you're in charge of keeping my HRV in check right now. Okay, so this is essential, and I love this because this is the conversation I wanted to have again and again on the Family Practice Podcast, and I think it's so important that others in this profession hear it from people not named Tony, because I've been beating this drum. I've been putting this strategic plan in play to say, hey, if you want to end up with your patients knowing that chiropractic is about the nervous system, don't save it for last, and also don't put it second. Don't put the spine in front of it and then get to the nervous system. And it sounds so damn simple on its face, right? Like you said the words very different right there when you were detailing this out. But I think a lot of people don't think it's that different to just start with the spine, start with screening, start with back pain, and then get people the big idea. But you've tested both out. Or I've maybe not tested both out, but you know the differences. So I'm asking what I think for me is a hard question to answer. So I would love your help. When you say very different, this model of PX, which is so nervous system focused, way out front 100% of the time. And then, like you said, if we need to connect the dots to the spine or structure, we can do that.
Right.
But how you begin a relationship and how someone first perceives a doctor, a brand, it's really how it's going to stick. So 100%. When you say very different, can you just pull on that a little bit more?
Yeah,
What's
absolutely.
so different?
I think one of the biggest places that comes from is also just the trend we're seeing where, one, people truly want to be more involved and more advocates for their own healthcare. So they're doing more research. They're looking for more resources. They're looking for education, and they're looking for things that make sense, because they're sick of just this, like, do it this way or no way, or have this one lane or nothing. And so they want informed consent and options. And so the cool thing about using the insight scans is that now there's something concrete where people that are looking for some kind of metric, for some conceptual idea, can really understand, see, and then be a very active participant in their healing journey. Yeah. And so I used insight scans when I was in Jersey. I only had the neurothermal and I only used the EMG. HRV was just starting to kind of get out there. But now obviously using all three and having the confidence to use all three and communicate it with conviction and also with more certainty and clarity through your teaching with PX, because what the teaching I had was very basic. Red is bad, white is good, figure it out. Now I understand pattern and movement, and people get that. They get fight or flight. They get vagus nerve. They're looking for that stuff.
Wild. It's surreal. We have been all about the nervous system, all about pediatrics, full send for a long time. And it's surreal how trending nervous system regulation is. It's surreal how tracking, looking at my Garmin, no, we're on podcast here, but if you watch the video, I'm looking at my Garmin with my body battery,
my Oura
ring. Yep. So what we now are is we're on the leading edge of the world's entire shift. What's trending? MAHA, get away from big pharma, get away from the conventional pediatrician, save drugs for last. Buddy, we get to practice in the middle of this massive momentum shift. And who knew it was coming? I'd like to think I did. Did I know it was coming this fast, this fully? And for the family, you know who's actually shifting? This generation of moms and dads. We might, breaks my heart that for my parents and others, it's late. You know, they're doing what they can. But for this generation of families, party on, man. It is amazing.
Dire several years ago.
Truth.
It really did.
It did.
And that was part of the reason of wanting to leave the East Coast, was there was a lot of things going around with just informed consent and medical freedoms in multitudes of areas. And I think seeing that change now and having that opportunity is just incredible. And obviously age of information and access has also helped tremendously with that, independent research and sources. But I don't know how we could be the profession that we are and be in the position that we are, continuing to learn and grow and know what we know, and not look back at the versions of ourselves that didn't have that information and just feel it in the gut and feel that knife in the heart of like, gosh, if I just knew what I knew now back then, I could have helped. I could have done more.
So you can't
and
waste.
that's what keeps you like hungry, is thinking about the stuff that you wish you could have done to change the trajectory then. And all that should do is just propel you even more forward with even more clarity and even more conviction to always be hungry, always be learning, and stay ahead of it. Because we do have an opportunity to literally grab this bull by the horns and help change. Like, that was one of the things that really turned me into peds. Because I could say I was family practice back in Jersey, but really I was dealing with adults with pain. I was in insurance, so we really didn't talk about kids. And there were so many people there. Gosh, if I had just communicated differently, if I knew more, if I had done more, I could have helped their children. But thinking about changing the trajectory, like you said, in this current generation, or working with our littles now, meaning that we might not have to do the same things that we're doing with their parents later.
Everything. It's everything.
One of the biggest quotes someone had said to me, I don't remember where I heard this. It might have been even at a PX seminar, but it was like, as a parent, talking to them and saying, if you want your kid to end up where you are now, don't take them to me. And that, like, ooh.
Wow.
That gets you, right?
It does.
I'm not a parent yet. I hope to be one day.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about that for myself and a future child, like to have my kiddo go through what I went through in the journey. I mean, we all have our paths.
That's true.
But I would want to do my absolute best to help them live their life like any parent wants to with the information they have, right? I truly believe that everyone, has good intention and just does the best that they can with the resources and information that they have, which is why I think I pride myself so much on the educational piece, because you just don't know what you don't know.
You don't. And you got to give them a chance. What you get to do, and a lot of people are afraid to be as vocal with education and branding and marketing and talking about chiropractic in this way. We mute it a little. Mute is shutting it all the way down, but we turn down the volume, or we turn down the lens on a little bit, or we feel like, oh, well, the spine is safe for the outside, and then I'll talk about the nervous system and innate and vaccinations on the inside. And what you and I have said, no, we're going to talk about all of this all the time to everyone, because here's why. Because you have to give them the chance. I just think, every single child and family deserves the chance to say yes to this. And so if we are quiet, and especially if we are muted and we are distracted, we are literally robbing them of the chance to hear about this. And you have to hear about this, and then you got to understand this, and then you got to be all about this to get this. And so it actually begins with the conversation. Mm-hmm. It really actually truly begins with our hands are useless. Our piezoforms, our integrators, our insights are useless until our conversation, our brand, and our marketing and our connection to our community is powerful. So actually, I'd love to flow there next, my friend. Let's look at so this is a practice for brick and mortar family practice. This is people that want to go nervous system focused, all in. We say nervous system focused, we mean obsessed. Nervous system obsessed, right? 100%. Pediatrics, perinatal, family, all cash. Oh, goodness gracious. You know how wonderful that is. And doing it. So let's talk about the core components of a practice. Yeah. We've done a little bit of this, so we can start here, and then we'll move on to team and leadership next. So the branding and the marketing. Mm-hmm. Now, you really love that because it's communication packaged up, right?
Sure. Yeah.
What's working best? Best practices right now. I know the answer is probably a multitude, and that can be the answer, but like, what do you find is really bringing in not just the quantity of new patients you want, but like the style, the family, the mom that is just meant to be a homestead crew? What's working?
My teamwork.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Because then the second thing I want to talk about is what's working for the first thing.
Yeah, it's my team. My team does an incredible, beautiful job of holding space for someone, whether that's meeting them out in public, whether that's answering the phone call, whether that's talking to the friend that someone had brought in randomly because they're just doing their errands and chiropractic was something on their list, whether it's the referral that we get on a re-eval sheet. Like, it is my team. And yes, I know that team is also a product of leadership, and I've poured a lot into like our team culture and instilling our core values, which is being a very nurturing, impactful place where we're doing this stuff together, but doing it with heart. That's probably one of the biggest compliments that we get, though, is just that feeling. Because there's a lot of places that you can go where you can get education, you can get information, you can get the best adjustment from someone.
And the chiropractor might be outstanding. Totally. There's a gap in the team.
Yes, there's something about having other people there that isn't the doctor that is able to hold space.
Wow.
for the toughest times. I have one of my favorite quotes is like, a lot of people say that they want to be the sun and shine really bright and be present for everyone and light up the world. But like, what about being the moon that provides light in the darkest places? And I have rock star team members that just do such a beautiful job of that. And that, again, going back to some of our earlier conversation, is just as healing as the actual, facilitation of the body doing the adjustment and the healing itself too. It is a mental, emotional aspect just as much as physical. So whether it comes through in our social media reels, whether it comes through in our branding, whether it comes through in our website, whether it comes through in any promotion that we do, marketing, workshops, events that we host, like the heart is at the middle.
It is.
And it's all embraced by my team.
Because you cannot wait to deliver it together. You have infused it intentionally, strategically, consistently into your marketing message. Your team is front and center at everything you do. It has been since I've known you and since you opened up. So let's go there. How did you know how essential, effective, and that's not just effective to build your practice. That is literally effective to change their lives. Because those front desk conversations, I call them, the mom who needs to loiter, like she needs a loitering day. Loitering is healing inside a practice like ours, right? Loitering is encouraged. We always made the joke that we would literally put a sticker on the door that says loitering encouraged because they have a lot of businesses and like, get the hell out of here.
Yes, I have practice members that'll literally say like, okay, guess we're going to move out now. Because they do. They come in with all their stuff. It ends up on the floor somewhere.
Play dates.
It's
I literally walked over here because PwC is just half block away. So I walked over and Ellie and Calvin and Eris and then Isaac and Callan, who are two kiddos who are here only 3. They go home tomorrow to Dubai and they go home and then to South Africa. These are 2 kids with regressive autism who were entirely socially withdrawn, would have looked at no one, talked to no one. I'm telling you, my friend, an hour ago, those 5 kids, so the 2 that had not interacted with the child in the last 2 years because they had regressive autism, were coloring and playing together. And they were in no hurry, nor was our team to have, they were all done. They all got adjusted. They were in no hurry to leave because the space was built for that. So, okay, awesome. So you knew to intentionally, strategically put it out there, but how? How did you become so obsessed with building team and culture to that degree? Before we talk about what the team and culture is, how did you come to know how important that was? Yeah.
I think through shadowing some of the other practices and seeing that they were doing this together impactfully was the start and the catalyst. I have to give credit though, my preceptorship with Dr. Sarah Nelson at Freedom Chiropractic. She is still miles ahead of doing the Heartwork. And she brought so much of that to her team culture. And so when I was there, that was really something that was emphasized. And I learned so much by the way that she led. And it gave me actually a beautiful launching point because then post-grad, I did an internship with an office where the team culture was present, but it wasn't as potent. And it wasn't as healthy as it could be. And so I got this beautiful dichotomy of a lot of focus around the team culture compared to numbers. And then I got a lot of focus around the numbers and systems compared to the culture.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that was like, whoa. So what I did was I ended up doing a team culture training at that office, which was fun because it gave me some experience in talking about it. And then when I went to open up my first practice, I was like, this is a part of our curriculum and a part of our mission right ahead. So like I did a honor and awareness training with them right when they were hired before we even opened so that the standard was set and that we knew that we were doing this together, but there was an expectation of excellence around that, not because of metric, but because of the heart and what this space is actually intended to be.
How early in an onboarding, actually, I bet it's not even onboarding, how early in an interview, connection, conversation, does the expectation of excellence get put forth for you?
You ask specific questions that will start to glean that answer. We're over the whole, what are your top 3 strengths? Anyone can have the rehearsed answer. You ask the weaknesses and somehow they turn the weaknesses into a strength, right?
Fantastic.
Like we know this. We know how
it's like
this
ChatGPT
works.
in human form.
Yeah,
totally.
exactly. But tell me about the time where you disagreed with something in your company and you had to talk about it. Tell me about the time where you had to provide critical feedback. Because you can teach anyone systems. You can teach anyone procedures.
Everybody is trainable.
Literally.
To anything.
Yes.
People with Androids are trainable.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, legit. It really is.
And you can give them frameworks and help them grow confidence and communication and learning, especially if they have no background in science. But you cannot teach someone how to be a human being. And when you work in service, and you work in service that's healthcare, you are meeting people where they're at, and that's not always a positive place.
No. And you're serving, and then take that a couple notches deeper. You guys are very just wired to serve perfect stormers, complex, tough, in the storm.
I love it.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's an incredible, because it's actually not, we don't do anything different. We just do it with more depth. That might be one of the most important things we can teach the profession, is that to get world-class clinical results. And I see it. It's one of your challenges too. When a really, really tough case comes in, if it doesn't, it does me, my friend, if it doesn't strike you and go, what should we expect with this kid? Yeah. And then it might take you a minute you might try and mute it for a minute, and then miracles come flying out of your eyeballs. Because alls we do, using minimizing language intentionally again for contrast, alls we do is we provide an even greater depth and level of excellence of clinical chiropractic care. What we ask and require our team to do is to provide an even greater depth and level of hope and community and connection and resources. And so if the child struggles more, the answer is more of what works best, chiropractic and community and connection. It doesn't mean the answer is more of this and that and everything else. In fact, that doesn't work.
No. Less is more. And I think, honestly, bringing that full circle, that's why it's so important to stay connected to a community that continues to push you forward. Because with those tough cases, like for me, I'll get emotional about the things that I could have done back then, that now I have to just say, no, hold on. There is someone waiting for me in the future that is going to need the better version of me. So if I'm not continuing to improve upon that and dive in, like there was a specific tough case I had around bedwetting actually. And I was like, what do I do? Because you in your bubble of your office, you're relying on yourself, your team, the resources you have, the educational you have, but also like our bubble doesn't just have to be our office. It can be our colleagues. Yeah. And I remember even just going to the PX community forum and like typing in bedwetting and looking at things. And either you or Dr. Matt had posted about seeing some space and testing out space between those adjustments with those kids specifically. And I was like, just need a knee with mom. Like, hey, listen, if we're not seeing breakthrough on the scan, or if we're not seeing breakthrough in this symptom, like I actually want to drop them down earlier than I expected, and let's see how it goes. And it made a difference. That's now I'm a better doctor for having humbly gone back and said, what do I need to do differently to be the person that this patient, this practice member, this kid, this mom and family needs me to be.
And you need a community and resource to reach out to, because you're so not human if you don't run into potential roadblocks every single day. You're not trying hard enough if you're not running into tough stuff.
But I think people get comfortable, or they feel like they know it all, or like, why do I need a mentorship? Like my numbers are fine, or I'm doing really well in practice. And it's like, you're not meant to go it alone.
You are literally right now, my friend, describing the place. I have zero fear in my life. If I'm afraid of something, it's that. I literally in my prayers ask God to never leave me comfortable. I ask God to, it's the worst. It is literally, Christine and I are recording right here in this studio tomorrow, Killing Comfort, and the chiropractic version, because for 1,000 reasons, but because there's going to be another kid who's going to be one more level complex than I'm prepared for right now. And I need to lean into that uncomfortableness, reach out to my community, my mentors, my training, and level up. And that as a career, who gets to do that? Right. We have friends who are comfortable. Most of mine who are comfortable are miserable. Looks great on the outside. You have a chat with them, but because they've chose cruise control and they've said, my numbers are great, my volume is great, I already know what I'm doing, I'll just hit coast. Coast is miserable, man. Coast is miserable. Okay. All right. Perfect. So in this, I think we're right in this, and we're going to keep, this is freaking awesome. Because there's clinical stuff, within chiropractic, there's team and leadership stuff. Like you just do things at a level within, I call them categories because we have a curriculum. So inside Kajabi, there's modules and categories. So I love the depth that you take each of these categories and go to. So forgive me for dancing around them a little bit. They only actually are separate in a freaking binder, right? In life, they're not separate. None of this is separate. Your clinical results are very dependent upon your team's ability, your brand's results, your marketing results, your business results. And all these things are interwoven. So whenever we ask questions or go down certain podcasts and we focus on one, it's to elevate all of the others. But if we look at the chiropractic industry, specifically pediatric chiropractic, and let's start clinical, what frustrates you? What's one thing that you would change and just really speak to and say, guys, this is actually the ticket that transforms miracles. And if you miss it, it doesn't.
It's your own personal ego.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your own way. If you bring your ego into your doctoring, then you won't actually show up as the best doctor that you can be, because it's not about you, it's about what they need. And so if you have insecurities around that, if you're not working on your own, money mindset, doctoring mindset, clinical mindset, all of it, you're not going to be present enough to deliver. So 2, leading into that, then have conviction about what you're doing. Don't hesitate and care plan enough.
You can't care plan without conviction. So it's one of those things, like I was just saying, like these seem like separate terms. They're not. Your certainty, your clarity. And if you actually let your ego get in the way, your ego doesn't like when somebody says no or not yet to care. So you wuss out on the care plan hoping they'll say yes, because then you will feel better about the yes, but you're not going to feel good 12 to 20. If you go 2 times a week for 6 weeks and the kid gets nowhere, how are you going to feel then?
Well, exactly. You get the dopamine hit of the commitment, but then you have not the follow through. Yeah. And I think this is where, even just in my area, like it's tough because people are so used to having minimal care and like getting by enough. And then they get presented with this and you're like, your kid is struggling in all of these areas. This is not going to cut it.
And they know that.
Not.
They know that, especially, they already knew that in their gut instinct. We joke around here, Marisa, that we want, because there's a fair amount of chiropractors around here too, right? Yeah. We're not too far. It's the Midwest now. And so we joke that we want to take a billboard out that says, we do care plan, we don't accept insurance, PwC Chiropractic. Like, let's just get it out of the way. Let's just literally
put it out there.
Get it
all
out of the way.
All my cards are on the table.
Yeah, totally. When a Facebook group goes off and it's like, my kid is this. So if it's, I love this. When local Crystal Lake, McHenry County Facebook groups go off looking for a chiropractor, when it's about back pain and neck pain, we don't show up at all. And I couldn't be happier about that. Okay. I could not be happier. Right. Second, when it's about kids, our tribe just infiltrates that. And you'll see, and here's the worst. Oh, I feel so bad for them. I literally pray for them in this moment. Some of the other I call them family-ish chiropractic, right? You said it earlier. We didn't know that most of us think what we think of family practice is in chiropractic, and now you have one. Right. There's a big gap. So anyways, these family-ish folks will come in and be like, well, we don't care. They literally will just and they're literally putting themselves out there in the most low quality way, just to try and feel better about coming in. Okay. All right. So next up within chiropractic and growing a family practice, if you look at the couple of 1, 2, 3 things that are really essential for practice success and success in your way, my friend. Success to you is not just numbers. Not that we don't kick them out either, but it's not just numbers. It is impact. It is fulfillment. It is enjoyment. Yeah. So what do you think we need to change within the chiropractic industry when we look at family practice success? What are some of the key areas of focus you would send somebody to?
I think 1, just understanding you don't have to do it alone. In fact, please don't. Yeah. Because, for me personally, and I think everyone truly does feel this way, or I have hope that they do, if I never want my practice to be a practice where someone shows up to my doors and I can't serve them. Yeah. I can't see them. I'm not present enough hours. I also want to enjoy this beautiful life that I've been given and not be in my practice from midnight to midnight. So in order for me to do that, while also being able to be present for the community, is not doing it alone. So I am actually
It's the magic elixir, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So very excitingly, I have my first associate coming on, but I have opened up with 3 team members each time. Because again, it's just so much more impactful when you can do it with others. I think also just doing your own, starting with you, right? If you are going to not do it alone, that means you're going to be doing it with
other people. Because you're not going to have 3 people. You're not only going to have your patients and community counting on you, you're going to have 3 people and their families counting on you.
Yes. And you are now leading.
There you go.
And in school, you learn how to be a doctor-ish and adjust, but you don't get taught how to be a business owner as well. So understanding the difference between being an employee in your practice and also being the CEO of your practice, and figuring out how to grow and scale so that you can, obviously in the beginning, you're doing a little bit of both, but then you're going to need to continue to focus on what you want to focus on. So that's either hiring someone else to help take your practice farther so that you can stick with the adjusting and the clinical side, or understanding that having a team. There are people that are also better than you out there that are going to provide, again, a lid for someone's pot that needs them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just, I think, again, just going back to the inner work and the heart work of like understanding that no one is going to be there to physically do it for you. You have to show up for yourself. And so if you are constantly inundating your own mind and your own heart with lack, like no one's going to argue more for your potential than you will for your limitation. I heard that at a seminar by a man named Anthony, so I have to give him credit for it, but that stuck with me.
Great quote, great name.
Yeah, right. Just put that together.
I did.
That was very sly.
I saw it on your notes. You think I was going to skip that one? I've been leading you here this whole time.
His last name was V.
Yeah, it looks like an E on my notes. Yeah, totally.
So I think that's so important is, again, sometimes we're so focused on the clinical side of things, we forget that there is also a business and a leadership side of things. And the way that you show up to your business is also going to affect where it goes. So those are things that I just wish people would do more of, focus on as they're trying to grow and scale. Okay.
So we got to, we're getting to that round third base to this incredible conversation that I do not want this to end, and it will not be the last time you're on here. And you know what, I'm just going to say it right on here. One thing we know to scale and grow this mission and vision is we need to take our clinical training to the next level, to literally many other countries. That was those two moms. The moms are like, when you come to Dubai, when you come into Cape Town, and it's like, and then, but you know how we're wired. We don't want to just take the clinical protocols and now there's just a lone chiropractor trying to change their country by themselves without a team. Yeah. That's a level that we are very obsessed with, the patient experience and the leadership. And here's why there's not a lot of people that go there. It's hard. Yeah. Okay. So that's my last question for you is, you learn how to be a clinical guru. You learn how to care plan. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to market. You got business and systems. You're a freaking systems guru. You got all those things. And then shows up leadership. How hard is it to learn this skill, keep learning this skill, and stay in a good place? And then take us there, just truth with that. Yeah. But then also, how valuable is it? How important is it for what you get, not only for your practice and yourself, but now also for your family, your husband, and what's coming next. Yeah, absolutely. People are imperfect. We're all imperfect. And so when you are leading imperfect people, it can be very challenging. Again, even just for yourself, the person that shows up to lead them, like you can bleed on them even though they didn't cut you. And so if you're not working on yourself, it's hard. But also then leading by example and showing how they can also continue to level up and work on themselves, especially as your team grows. Yeah, they may all come in at a certain level or be doing specific tasks, but then you may have people that are stepping up into their own leadership, even, within that crew. And now they have to actually start to create a little bit of a gap too of saying, yes, we are always on the same team, but I also now have to hold this team to a certain level of expectation. And I think team and people and them working through their own stuff can be really challenging. And if you want a very heart-centered team, people can feel that when they walk in. So when you're looking to hire new people, they see that and they want to be a part of it. So one, you can attract. You don't have to put an ad out. No, you're just putting that out. Literally, and they're thirsty for it because workplace culture is not something that is super healtly on the whole. I think we're doing a lot to try and make it that way, but on the whole. And if they're at a place that is very healthy, you're not getting them. Because they're in such a great place. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah, totally. But there is a difference between then people being in your practice because of a positive team culture coming from a traumatic experience and looking to heal through your team versus also wanting to bring something to the team. Yeah. So figuring out how to discern that, like you can help guide that process, but there also may be times where you're like, it's not the appropriate time. Yeah. And so learning how to hire slow but fire fast when you already see that leak start to happen is really important because, again, your team culture's experience is what's going to also leak out into your practice members' experience. And your life. Totally. It's going to, I tell you, the way I lead my team has made me such a better dad. It's wild. The challenges I have faced, and they are many, and I have not slayed each dragon the first time I took a swing at it, okay, by any means. And so the challenges that I have faced, the failures that I have got kicked right in the face on, and then the mountains that we have climbed and gotten up to the incredible and the beauty, like, oh my gosh, that just translates to my entire life with that. So I love that. You spoke to the truth of how essential and impactful leadership and team building is. You spoke to how challenging team and leadership is. So, and again, because it goes in order. If it's that worth it, it ain't going to be easy. Totally. And therefore, it's good, lean into it. And then he gave us strategies with which to do that. My last, if I can get just a bit granular, just on team and leadership, because few people talk about this. Sure. They want to come in and talk about, chiropractic, and we could too. You and I could nerd out over science and technique and care planning and communication and day. I could have asked you about your day one and your day two, and I could have asked you about how do you do a workshop, you know? And no, because you lead at a different level than I've seen. You're in the top % of leadership within the chiropractic profession. And so I really wanted to pull on this big time. How do you strategically, within your week, within your month, how do you distribute your time from serving patients, marketing and handling, we'll call that the business of the practice, and then being a leader, growing as a leader, connecting? What's your time allocation? If you could just give us kind of a 30,000 foot view.
Totally. And I think this is still a work in progress because I'm continuing to scale up, right? As we all are. My husband and I want to have a family at the end of this year. So we're leveraging that. I'm learning that skill more and more. But one of the biggest things I do is just kind of structure the day a little bit differently. So my patient hours are very specific hours, but every single Tuesday we have like team meetings. Cool. Once a month though, and again, with a team my size, I can still do this. As I continue to scale, I'll have my chief heart officer start to do these things. But I have a one-on-one about 15 to 20 minute meeting with every individual team member monthly. Okay. And it's just a check-in, and I ask 4 different things. I ask them about themselves personally, like what's going on, what's going on in your life. If you need the 5-minute cry, like, let's do it now. But also, how are you personally in the practice?
They might need a 5-minute celebration too.
Exactly. 100%, right? Yeah, totally. We're checking in. Are there places where they're finding themselves resisting things in practice? Are there places where they really find themselves drawn to, and it's a strength that's coming out? And how do I continue to help hone that and make them excited about what they do? 2, I ask about the office itself, the practice members. What's their experience? Because I might hear certain things in the adjustment room, but they might hear things in the waiting room or in the re-eval room. So what is their experience? Are there things that we can do to make it better, et cetera? Are there grumblings that we're hearing that we need to attack? And then I ask about the team. What is your perspective on the team culture right now? How are things going? Are there sticky points? I want to address that at the horse's mouth, get that ahead. Because when something already smells a little fishy, it typically means it's been rotten for a little bit already. By
the time they actually admit it to you.
Exactly. So I'm not interested in letting that fester. And then I also ask about me. So this is my cut of humble pie. What can I do to serve you better? What do you need from me to help you continue to grow? And what do you think I can continue to do to get Homestead moving the needle where it needs to go, and also continue to serve our patients in the best way possible? So it's a beautiful way for us to just touch on 4 different pillars that can continue to help promote unity, connectedness, like opportunity and approachability. I hear a lot of other offices where the teams do not feel as capable of approaching their doctors for fear of getting like
it's pretty much
talked down to
the majority of offices.
Yeah, it's just not as healthy. And so honestly, leadership leaks. And so it's hard to be humble and do that. You've got so much on your plate as a doc.
Yeah, you want to
so
avoid
many things you're thinking about and doing, and team is hard, but it also can be the most rewarding if you're willing to go there with them.
Your natural mechanism is you're not going to want to make time for those meetings because you're so busy, and then you're not going to want to make the energetic, humble space for those meetings to hear what needs to be said, because then you're like, well, if they tell me what needs to be fixed, then I got to deploy the energy to get it fixed. Exactly. Yeah, well, that's a whole lot better than like the festering. And like you said, I love that a ton. That is so essential to be in that space of listening is leading, right? And you can take it from that end. Where though in the week or in the month, before I fully let you go, where do you go to learn, to continue to level up? Do you have space intentionally scheduled within your week or your month or your year to, you've come to team, I know that, and by the way, fun story about Dr. Sarah and her team. That is the only team at Team and Leadership that I was super concerned about concussions, because we had the after party at the farm, right? So we do that. And so you can imagine this routine. It's making sense already. And I've only given you the precursor to what happened. So they go into the basement of Farm Sweet Farm, because they came during a summer month. And so we had a taco party at the farm. Team and Leadership is pretty rad event, right? And not only do you level up, but we build community with it. And so somehow they make their way to the basement. Everybody else is outside, and everybody else is like in the kitchen where the tacos and the margaritas are. Don't get me wrong. They had margaritas, which is part to do with this.
Maybe why they're in the basement.
Yeah, the cutwater ones. You know what I'm talking about? The cutwater ones that hit hard. That thing, you walk by that margarita, well, at least when you're in your 40s, and you are like, Yeah. So all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, there's a whole bunch of people playing dart. Say my kids have dart guns. So they were literally having a battle and a war. And I have this really rad old school farmhouse staircase where, like, if you run too hard on it's a steel beam 6 inches thick. As I'm walking down the stairs, oh no, I just lost her blonde curly from Sarah's team. She's so wonderful. She's been there forever. Susie. Of course it's Susie. I watched Susie, like a Navy SEAL move, duck and roll under the staircase, and her curly hair, with her head, missed it by 1/8 of an inch. And I was like, God almighty, women, what are you doing down here? And then when I saw it was Sarah's team, I just turned around and went upstairs and I was like, culture building. That's culture building.
Exactly.
They had such a blast. I love them so much.
Right there.
It is. Okay, so geez, that was a long story too. I know that you go to seminars, you go to things, but do you have anything else that you would leave as a tip to say, how do I level up as a leader? Do you make time for that?
You have to, because there's always going to be something else that you can do in the practice.
I think so.
Another care plan that you can make, another Loom video for a reeval that you can do, but you absolutely need to schedule the time for CETA. That's something that I've been learning and growing into, because I am the person that will try and fill my time. I'm like, oh, I have 5 minutes. Let me do this 10-minute task in 5 minutes.
For sure.
So yeah, I specifically spread out time. Tuesday mornings are mornings where, or Wednesday afternoons are times where I'll have actually like a PX video playing in the background. I like having mentors that like give me and feed into my soul different ways. So I like clinical understanding, then I like understanding team stuff, I like understanding strategy and leadership. And so I will seek those things out, because again, you never know the way that someone might share something that'll stick in you a little bit deeper. And they typically tell us what anyway. You need to listen and hear something like 7 times before it actually integrates, or is the appropriate now season of life where you're actually ready to receive that message.
Because usually the most effective messages are reminders and renewals. They're not something new.
Yes.
If you feel like you need something new all the time, you're not actually doing a good job of learning, because there's so much depth to these core tenets.
Exactly.
Sure.
I think that's like the flip side of personal development is sometimes there's like information overload, but you never actually take action.
I think so.
So what I tend to do is like go more to a quarterly, like I'll try and do some kind of event on a quarterly basis or like every other year. So last year, my team and I went and we did a trip to Atlanta for like a systems thing. This year, we're going to come to Crystal Lake and do a team in leadership. Like there's ways that you can, again, it doesn't have to be everything all the time, but I do think it is great. I love this the most, at least, when I take my team to events where they get to meet other chiropractors and teams in this field, because most of the time my team, like, I don't have a team that's worked in other chiropractic offices. They have no context of what we're doing and the impact that is, or if we're doing something that could be improved because we're hearing it from another team, or if they feel really excited and fulfilled because they're like, Doc, I just got to answer this question for this other team. They were wondering about that, and we shared how we communicated, and they were like blown away. And like hearing that from them and them getting excited because they feel so much more confident about, wow, like I actually am showing up at work, like doing a kick-ass job. That to me is sometimes more valuable than just giving them feedback on something that a system that they need to improve.
You just pulled out.
And they buy in on your mission, your vision, your purpose so much more with this improved and increased just energy and light brought in that I think those are so impactful. And so, it is an expense to travel and bring your team places or pay for a seminar, but if you want to continue to watch your team grow and keep the quality people on your team moving it forward with you, you have to invest back into them.
Those are the two right words. You have to. It's truly incredible. Now you got to look into the cheat code as to why PwC's team is so high level, because when you are the teacher and you're supposed to be the example of excellence, it forces you to level up. And it's so empowering to our team. When our CAs come back, I always, because Jackie will kind of alter, a little bit or go on rotation who helps her teach at team and leadership or do the different immersions when incredible PX teams come here. And I've always watched the 2 or 3 for the next week. You get to the Monday afterwards and they're like, just on cloud 9, right? So
Absolutely.
Super cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I am going to have you take us home by sharing from the heart about Sarah and you have listened to your heart. You've also said, okay, there's a need here. There's a massive gap here in terms of, what's maybe what's missing is harsh, but I think so. There's a gap into that. And so can you the mic is yours, my friend, to tell us about your heart, your mission, your vision with Heartwork and the podcast and just what makes it so great and why. Because I just think what chiropractic has been missing for a bit is some real kick-ass podcasts with real life experience and depth. I hadn't been able to find it. And I'm the biggest podcast, I love them. And so I'm stoked to have this family practice podcast. I love listening to you guys. Like, it's legit. It's nothing else out there. So I'll shut up now. You take us home. Tell us about the podcast.
Thank you for the space. Yeah. So Sarah and I don't know if anyone knows about that app Marco Polo out there, but it's great. It's like you can send each other video voicemails at 11 o'clock at night, or she can listen to it at 6 in the morning. And so during COVID time, when I started going through my own inner journey and her having been through her own and recognizing it, we started on Marco Polo and we would just go back and forth and we became really close friends because of connecting over doing the deep work that feels really crappy, but that you have to do to show up in the best way that you can. And it's constantly evolving and growing. And so we're like, if people are asking us about leadership and about people, it's not, there's so many people out there that can teach you the systems, that can teach you the procedures. And everyone typically seems to be looking at what's that next spec? Oh, I got to do a workshop every single week and that's going to make my practice better. I'm going to, take my team to all these different things and they're going to learn, chiropractic first and read the books and that's going to make them better.
If one more person tells me they need systems.
Yeah, you forget about the people that show up to that. And so that was consistently something we would hear in the community. Like, how do you make team culture better? How do you actually improve this? And it's like, well, it starts with you. And it starts with shining a light on the blind spots of your own heart that you haven't gone. And so we started this Heartwork podcast to just put out there for the public for free, what's relevant for right now, what's going on in life, what's going on in business, what's going on in your relationships, what's going on in your journey with your family, all the things that we're not actually shining lights on because we're so focused on the doing and the system versus the being. And the person. And so our biggest mission is just to continue to help reintroduce people to themselves, because when we're in that grind, when we're in that grit, I'm so narrow focused on my mission, but you forget again that you're not just put on this earth to live the length of whatever God-given life you have, but you're meant to experience it in all its delicious juiciness and the gifts that are given to you. So if you are blinded, you're not able to appreciate that, walk into gratitude for it, things start happening to you versus for you. There's no lessons in the things you learn. And that's not only going to affect you, it's going to affect your relationships, it's going to affect your home life, it will affect your business, it will affect your bank account, everything.
Everywhere.
So that's really what the purpose was. It was just a passion project. And so we started actually recording and doing things kind of on the fly on the side. You just started to post your Marco Polos out there? Yeah, no, exactly.
What's the longest ever, do you remember, the longest ever Marco Polo that you either put forth or listened to?
I am a talker and I'll just keep going. So I think it's probably about 20 minutes, but we're both to the point where we can listen to each other in 1.5
for sure. Speed. That's what's so hard about it. Somebody just sends you the audio text.
Oh, yeah.
How is the iPhone not figured that out yet? I need to be able to speed this up. Any of my friends are slow talkers. Marisa, I'd be fine. You throw me an audio text, I'm good. You talk fast.
Yeah, I got the Jersey.
Yeah, you got the Jersey thing. I'm Chicago now, so game on. But if somebody, Yeah, it's just tricky. Marco Polo at least gives you that option. Do you know that's so cool that I just was interviewed on an incredible Two Moms podcast. They got literally signed by a huge network. That's how they started their podcast. They're two very traditional medical moms whose kids were going through challenges, and then they went holistic and they would just Marco Polo each other about their strategies, and they just had that idea. God just put that on their heart to say, this should be a podcast. Literally, we've lived through this. Let's share our experiences with it. Totally. And now it's one of the top podcasts in all of, parenting and mom and everything else. It's just really cool. I didn't know that. It makes perfect sense now, the Marco Polos back and forth. But it's a really rad podcast. It's really effective. It's a really unique podcast in the best of ways. And so everybody listening, we are absolutely dropping that into the show notes. This is one of those, it's worth grabbing that link. Hit that when you get to that podcast. I know how these work now. Get up in that right corner. Hit that little arrow button. Download that thing and make sure that you don't miss their releases. Weekly episodes, right? Weekly, yeah. Let's go, my friend. Yeah. All right. Well, I know you and the crew are going to be coming back up for Team and Leadership. Absolutely. I think, because I actually have like 50 more awesome questions I want to ask you on this, including, and then I'm sure we'll learn more things in the coming months. So next time you are in town, you down to sit down at these mics? Do it. Pretty rad. You're the first with the new studio.
I know,
new
I love
background.
this.
Pretty
stuff. It is beautiful.
Yeah, 0% to do with Tony, 100% to do with Christina.
She's
not a shocker, is it? She's a freaking wizard. She rules. The behind the scenes maker of all things awesome.
Love it. Green books and all the things.
Oh, I love it. All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.